Be honest, what were you doing at 21 years of age? Living in your mom's basement, pretending to have friends? Well, this video is about to make you feel some type of way about your life, because the dude we are talking about today started his reign as the ruler of the Mali Empire at 21. Now, you might be thinking, the Mali Empire, what is that? Well, you're about to find out. Now, let's get into it. Mansa Musa had more wealth than the top 5 wealthiest billionaires in the world combined. Let that sink in, especially because it might or might not be true. Nevertheless, there's money, there's wealth, and then there's whatever this dude had. Musa was the 9th Mansa, or emperor of the Mali Empire. What's the Mali Empire, you say? Well, it only occupied the modern-day countries of Mali, Senegal, the Gambia, Guinea, Niger, Nigeria, Chad, Mauritania, and Burkina Faso. So, yeah, not a major historical empire you should have known. Musa's reign in the early 14th century lasted around 25 years. The West African Empire was already thriving thanks to its gold reserves, salt production, and strategic trade routes. The empire's gold mines turned into one of the largest producers of gold at the time. But as those finance guys on the internet tell you, this obviously wasn't enough. Where will you be in your 20s if you don't make sound investments in your childhood? The Mali emperors were young hustlers with turbulent fires in their hearts driving their ambitions. They made sure that the empire also received gold through trade. As if that wasn't enough, they controlled salt production in the region, especially in the mines of Tagaza in the Sahara Desert. Now, you might ask a question like, what did they do with all that gold and salt? Flex, muchachos, flex. They obviously didn't hoard all those resources in a studio warehouse for Indiana Jones to discover in his 12th film. The only other plausible option is trade, primarily through the trans-Saharan routes connecting West Africa with North Africa and the Mediterranean. But as you know, enough is never enough. So the Mali Empire collected taxes from its peoples and tributes from its conquered territories. After all, where would you be in your childhood if you don't make sound investments from your mother's womb? And that's the key. Mansa Musa made investments from his mother's womb. What I mean by that is his predecessors were generating wealth for him way before his birth. Musa just inherited it. Just like all those rich trust fund kids, Mansa Musa was not self-made. At this point, you might ask, how was he appointed Mansa? Interestingly enough, there is no instances of his ascendance in the region's oral traditions, nor any Arab historians speaking of it, except one. Mida bin Fadlallah al-Umari, who was born in Damascus and studied under al-Tamiya, the famous Sunni alim of the Hanbali madhab. Al-Umari speaks of a man befriended by the wealthy emperor during his legendary Hajj pilgrimage to Mecca. This man was the governor of a district in Cairo, an emir, and he recounted his conversation with the Mansa to our good friend Al-Umari. Anyway, Musa told this emir that his predecessor, Muhammad ibn Ki, left him in charge of the empire when he set off on a voyage. Since the old Mansa got lost at sea, Musa ascended to the throne permanently. The only interesting thing to add is that his predecessor might have reached the New World. When it was Musa's time to shine, he did things differently from his predecessors. He turned the empire into a cultural hub, inviting architects and scholars from all over the Islamic world. He improved Mali's relations with the Mamluk and Marinid sultanates and transformed Timbuktu into a center of Islamic learning. Education, culture, and infrastructure were important to him. Another thing is that he took organizational measures to improve the empire's trade. That, however, is not the reason for his popularity. His predecessors were hoarding money. He flaunted it, and that's why we know about him today. I say we, but what I really mean is the people who bother reading a book every once in a while. Musa's pilgrimage to Mecca is legendary. He showed off his wealth by handing out gifts to every Tom, Dick, and Harry. Or, since we're talking about Egypt here, every Tariq, Dina, and Haris. He basically spent so much money in Cairo that he tanked the region's economy. Unfortunately, on his way back from Mecca, tragedy befell the Mali Mansa. His fellow travelers died from starvation, and most of his resources were lost to bandits. He ran out of money and went into debt. While spending all of his money on lavish indulgences, he forgot to ask himself the most important question a man could ask himself. Where would you be in your 40s if you don't make sound investments in your 30s? Well, thanks for tuning into History Hub. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like and subscribe to the channel. And let us know in the comments which facts from the past you'd like us to cover next. See you next time, Habibi!